Well, it's that time again.
What time is that?
It's time to get naked.
Like all the way naked?
Well, keep your clothes on, but it's time for the Naked Party Time podcast, where we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love.
While having lots of fun along the way.
So what do you say? Are you ready to get naked?
Let's do it.
Everyone experiences transitions in life. Some we choose, while others are forced on us. Some are larger than others, but every transition creates distractions that can derail us. That's why we must be intentional on key rhythms in our life that keep us moving in the right direction. And that's what we want to talk about today on episode 39 of the Naked Party Time podcast, which we are calling The Rhythms of Transition. Hello again, or hello for the very first time, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app. We are so excited to have you along for this ride. My name is Sabrina.Maness, and I'm joined by my co-host, my wife, my podcast queen, my Mother's Day miracle. Sabrina.
I'm your Mother's Day miracle.
That's all I could think of on the spot, because we did not plan on recording this on Mother's Day.
No, we didn't.
We were supposed to record this on Thursday, and we got lazy. And then were busy all day Friday, and then Saturday, Sabbath. And here we are on Mother's Day, and we have to get this done because it releases on Tuesday. So how are you doing, Sabrina?
I'm doing pretty good
You having
today.
a good Mother's Day?
Yeah, I am. Mariah sent me a card.
Yeah, your first Mother's Day away from a child.
Yeah, she gave me a gift card to Cheesecake Factory.
Which you're going to use on me.
Nope, I'm going to go by myself.
On me.
Nope. And then I woke up to flowers and chocolate this morning from Jonah and Michaela.
Not from me.
No. And then I got a gift at church.
You did?
Yeah, you gave it to me.
Oh, from the church, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like somebody gave you a gift. No. Yeah, I handed you the gift that the church gave to all the ladies that were there.
Yes. And then you bought me Starbucks.
Yep. We did get to go up on Friday to a little adventure up to Brenham, Texas.
Yeah.
Which is the home of the Bluebell Ice Cream Factory. That was fun.
Yeah.
Brenham's a cool town.
That was like the best ice cream I've ever had.
It was. I don't know if it's just because you were at the factory and so your brain told you it was better, but it was better.
It was better.
It was delicious.
Cheap.
Oh, $1 a scoop?
Yeah, it was amazing.
I wanted more.
I know. I know you did. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. So we're talking about transitions today. Do you know anybody who's gone through a major transition in life recently? You almost missed your chin, by the way. Sabrina was tapping her chin, if you're not watching, and she almost missed her chin. Well, while we are definitely not experts on how to make a transition, we're at least experts in knowing what it's like to experience a transition, as we are still in the middle of a major life transition ourselves. We are now 5 months into this transition, the second month of me actually being on the ground with the church and the staff. But on top of the professional transition being made, you have the personal ones as well. Moving into a new home, learning the community, finding new doctors, places to shop for groceries, getting our daughter connected in school, vehicle registration, tags, inspections. You have to get to know a whole new area with new weather, new bugs, new culture, new people, all the things, right?
Yes,
like
all the
things. Anyone who has ever moved, especially to a new state or a new region, knows what I'm talking about. But regardless of the nature of a transition, whether it's moving locations, a job change, adding a child to your family, getting married, unfortunately experiencing divorce, maybe a sickness or tragedy comes on your family, whatever it is, every transition creates distractions that can derail us. That's just the reality of transitions. That's why we must be intentional on key rhythms in our life that keep us moving in the right direction. And the key rhythms we're going to talk about are ones we saw attacked in our own lives the most through this transition. So I hope everyone understands we aren't presenting this podcast as people who did this perfectly, right?
No,
far from it. As we sat down, though, and kind of debriefed our own transition and talked about it along the way, these were the things that we struggled with being the most consistent.
Yeah.
At least there's one we're going to talk about that we did, I think, really, really well. But for the most part, these are ones that were attacked the most. But they are also, even though they were ones we struggled with, they are the rhythms that keep us the most grounded and secure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as we recognized Being
I'm sorry.
Sabrina totally missed the cue that I had given her in the notes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is okay.
I even joked about it before we got started.
No, that's a different one. But
okay, sorry about that. We're just gonna keep moving.
Yep, we're gonna keep on moving. You following along now?
Yes.
This is kind of ironic because that was a transition in the podcast. I waited and waited.
I did not get.
It's in red letters.
Amanda, I can't believe people really like this podcast because I am a mess.
It's red letters in the podcast.
In my notes, it split, and so I hadn't moved down there yet. And then I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So, do you want to talk about how we felt a few weeks into moving here?
Yes, we can totally go. I'm so sorry.
We're just gonna move on.
Okay. Well, can I just say something real quickly?
Please, since that's where I planned on you saying something.
We seriously unpacked our house in 9 days flat. We
Completely
do not
unpacked.
Mess around. We got every single box unpacked. Jonah had his room done the very first day that our truck came because we wanted to do things.
Yeah.
So we were going to get this done. Well, then we got it all done so quickly, but we couldn't really interact with the church people yet. We were on sabbatical, which was such a blessing, but so we were kind of in this weird transition position of we just felt so lost. You just kind of walked around the house like a zombie, not knowing what to do because
every rhythm we knew in life was gone.
It was as we'll talk about, we kept some that we did not break.
But even Jada, we had been homeschooling her first semester while living in Wyoming.
Yeah.
We get here and she's in public school.
Yeah. So I was lost on what to do because I didn't know what it looked like to do life without my kid at home. And
within a few days, we felt like we were completely upside down.
Yeah. I felt we both felt lost. I felt really lonely because we didn't have any friends. And so we had each other, but you still miss that companionship outside of the marriage that we once had. And
yeah, that was good. That would have been really good if you would have been right on cue with what I had planned. So as we recognize being out of rhythm and as we recognize the currents that we were in, the crashing waves on the beach, if you will, we decided to get focused on 3 specific rhythms that were of utmost importance to us. Again, transition itself creates chaos.
Yeah.
It's just reality.
Yeah.
It really is like a current in the ocean or a river or crashing waves that can take you off course or knock you down. In transition, there are so many things changing that are outside of your control. So choosing to focus on some key rhythms will help you navigate the currents and the waves in a more healthy and productive way. You can't control the waves that are crashing, but you can control how you navigate those waves. And that's what rhythms do. So in this episode, we're going to present 3 general rhythms with some specific things inside of each one. And then we'll do a deep dive into each one of these rhythms in a series of episodes that are going to follow here. So Sabrina, what is the first rhythm that we recognized?
The rhythm of relationships.
Very good. You got that one this time. Good job.
I'm paying more attention now.
Well, I had actually asked you this time. The other one was like a little, you were supposed to just take it and run. We'll see if you get the next one.
Oh my! Maybe by the 100th episode, I'll have this down.
Maybe so. The rhythm of relationships. So in the midst, and you mentioned this just a little bit earlier. In the midst of transition, one of the first things that gets attacked is our relationships.
Yeah.
Because a transition creates new currents. It's easy to get swept up by them. And before you realize it, the most important relationships in your life have been neglected or at least have been affected. And you didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
And this happens unintentionally.
Yeah.
Like no one, or at least very few people, sabotage their relationships on purpose. It's just like being out in the ocean playing. And you start out right in front of your family or friends, wherever they are on the beach. But if you don't pay attention, those waves and those currents keep crashing and pulling. And eventually you look up and you're a long, long way from where you started. This happens in life as well. And in our Rhythm of Relationships episode, we'll talk in detail about these key relationships. But Sabrina, what are the key relationships that we've got to focus on in transition?
Our faith, our family, and our friends.
Yes. And I would add in that order,
Yeah.
faith, family, friends. Those are the three key relationships that you have to be intentional with your rhythms. Otherwise, you will find yourself maybe not neglecting those, but they will be affected if you don't have some intentionality. Those are the three key relationships that you've got to be intentional with in a transition. Because like I said, if you're not, you'll be swept away from them. You'll find that you've drifted in at least one of those relationships if you don't stay intentional on having a rhythm with them. So Sabrina, which one of these did you see yourself affected by the most in this transition? Faith, family, friends.
I would say probably the faith piece, just in the sense I never stopped reading my Bible.
Yep.
Like I had that down pat. But the taking the time to pray, I just was not doing that. Like I was so good about praying through all the power of a praying wife, parent, woman. And I hadn't picked those up probably since December of last year, because it was just so chaotic and the transition was so hard in a sense. And so I had totally dropped the ball on praying those, and I could feel the difference in myself. And even not even praying through, I have a photo prayer journal on my phone, and I was praying, but not intentionally looking at the people like I like to do and praying on certain days for people. That totally went out the window.
Yep. And prayer was my biggest one as well. I was completely out of rhythm in my quiet time. Like you, I never missed one day of reading the Word, but I was not in a good rhythm of really sitting with God and spending time with Him in prayer, which is kind of ironic because I didn't have a job. We were on sabbatical. We had time. We had more free time than we have had in years, but it was just the nature of transition, because the transition threw off the normal rhythm we had of getting up and getting ready for school or getting ready for work, me going to work and then going to work and coming home. There's all those rhythms, and you build that your devotional rhythm inside of that. So when that whole thing was thrown off, it just threw off everything else, prayer being one of the main ones. It was actually at Sunscape Counseling and Retreat Center where I know you were really challenged with, when we get back, I have to start this again. And
I did, and
that was almost
been huge.
2 months into our sabbatical.
I know.
So it tells you how long we were thrown off.
We went
in February.
March.
March, yeah, it was.
Yeah. And God had already been kind of convicting me, and I was like, I know I need to start this, but things just kept getting in the way, or like this is going to sound bad, but you being at home does mess everything up. Yep. Not in a bad way, but
I mess everything up, guys.
I just don't know what to do with you here, and you don't know what to do with you here. And we had Jonah and Michaela were in and out of the house, finding jobs and all that stuff. And it was just crazy. And so at Sunscape, I really just felt like I have got to start this, or I'm just going to see depletion in that area. And so I started it. I committed at Sunscape. I started it as soon as we got back. And I have missed a day or here, but not like it was before. And I make that day up. So I love praying those prayers every day and going through that photo journal I have. I told Michaela, I was like, I prayed for you today. And she's like, today's not my day. I was like, I know, I missed yesterday, so I had to get caught up today. Even our kids know what day we pray for them on, and how consistent we are with that.
Yep. So once we both recognized the current that we were in pulling us away, and then got refocused on the rhythm, it was incredibly grounding.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it helped a ton.
Yeah. So every rhythm we had with our family, every rhythm we had with our friends was completely overcome by the current of transition. Even with the blessing of the sabbatical, that meant, again, I had no rhythm of a job to build around. Like everything was tossed around. So we had to get really intentional on some rhythms with our family and friends, even rhythms of seeking out new friends, which is terrifying. In order for us to stay grounded and move forward, we had to do that. And I do think we have some helpful stuff to share that we've learned from, and we'll do that in our full episode we do on relationships coming up. Anything you want to say or add now on relationships before we move on?
I just think because transition does come, you gave a whole list of ways that we can't let the chaos overrun us. Like we kept some things going. And you're not going to be perfect by any means.
Some things will just change because it's transition.
Right. But you don't just let everything go. Don't be like, well, I can't do this, so I'm not doing anything.
That's
don't
really
have
good.
That kind of attitude.
Don't let it be an excuse.
No, give yourself grace and do what you can do in that season and know I need to add this back in. But once we get through this, I'll add this back in and start building back up to where you want to be.
So we'll talk about, in that episode on relationships that we'll do coming up, we're going to talk about some specific things around faith, around family, and around friends that we learned, things we did well and things we didn't do so well. But they are key. Those three areas, man, if you don't have some rhythms in those relationships, the chaos will just be greater.
Right.
Those things help keep you grounded so that you don't get swept away. That's the best illustration. I keep coming back to that, but it's the best thing I can think of. The currents will sweep you away if you don't have those rhythms to keep you grounded.
Well, and we're not in control of very much, but you're in control of yourself, and you're in control of how the chaos affects you. And you're in control of what you do and don't do. So in reality, we have more control than we feel like when life is out of control around us.
So what's the second rhythm of life that we saw under attack and something we need to focus on?
The rhythm of recreation.
The rhythm of recreation. Going for all R's.
Well, first it was F's in the faith, family, and friends.
That's right. Well, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to mention that in a second. We got some other alliteration coming up. I preached today. My voice is actually, I keep on feeling my voice go out. I preached today at church. And I didn't mention this in second service, but in first service, I mentioned my alliteration that I had because my points were hurting, hoping, and honoring.
On that hoping one, I was thinking someone could have easily messed that up and it could have said hopping.
Well, somebody told me before church started on the production team that if I wanted to truly have alliteration, it needs to be honoring.
Oh my goodness.
Hurting, hoping, and honoring.
Wow.
So we have some more here. The rhythm of recreation. And this is something that can be added to the family and friend rhythm as well. But the chaos of transition can cause us to just stop pursuing those places in life that are fun or just simply life-giving and healthy. So Sabrina, not everyone would call this first recreation piece fun, but it is one we struggle with greatly in this transition. It's incredibly important to not just our physical well-being, but our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being as well. So what's the recreation rhythm that we both struggle with the most?
The rhythm of exercise.
I don't even want to talk about this one.
I don't either.
Some people are like, I don't need a transition to struggle with exercise.
Oh man, I hear you. That's how I am. I always struggle with it.
And that is true.
It's
like
hard.
This is a tough one for a lot of people just in general, even when things are going great.
Yeah.
But under the added stress of transition, this is even more important. And we saw that.
Yeah.
We really saw it. And listen, we're not talking about becoming bodybuilders, running races, becoming some kind of health expert, but just a healthy rhythm of intentional exercise that keeps the body, mind, and spirit connected and healthy. Right along with that is the rhythm of eating. Eating can be recreational.
Yes, it can. It works your biceps too.
As you're lifting the spoon to your mouth. I do think there's a place for that in transition. As I was writing out the podcast script, I thought of that. Like, eating can be fun.
Yeah.
It can be just a break away from the chaos to go out for a really good meal that you don't have to cook or clean up. something maybe you normally wouldn't do. And we did do some of that, a lot of that.
Yeah, we did a lot of it.
In the sabbatical. But also there's that danger of slipping into or compounding really bad eating habits in the midst of a transition.
Yeah.
It's just easier to get fast food, right? And I'm not saying we should never get fast food or eat processed food, but that can easily become a new rhythm, which is not healthy and not helpful.
It did take a while before I could even think about menu planning and grocery shopping. Like that took my brain a while to get there. So we did eat out quite a bit, and I just bought groceries as
we
need be. And we're into that rhythm now, but that was really hard for me.
Yep. And we probably did both the good and the bad side of this. Like we treated ourselves to some things that we normally wouldn't do, some restaurants that we want to try, or going to Topgolf with the kids and getting food there. But we also just didn't have good eating habits, and it began to show.
And not in me.
No, never in you.
No, you.
Yeah. Me. And I'm not, we're joking about it. I'm not talking about just physically, but eating is a huge part of our mental and emotional health as well.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely tell a difference in how I feel mentally if I've eaten a bunch of sugar and crap. And
And then combine that with exercise.
Yeah.
If you're not exercising and you're not eating well, it's just as bad as the good part of intentionally exercising and eating well.
Right.
Like that alone, the exercise and eating is again, this one probably is the one that's the easiest to go into bad habits in a transition. Just because we have so many options.
Right.
But if we would stay consistent with it, I think it would be a massive anchor for us in the transition itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So again, we're going to dive into each one of these more deeply in the individual episode that we do on it. But the last recreation piece one, we were super challenged on during our time at the Sunscape Retreat and Counseling Center. And it's just the rhythm of energizers. So you got exercise, eating, and energizers. Answering that question, what do you do for fun? What do you do that gives you energy? What fills you up? Some might call this entertainment, another E word. That was a question that really challenged us at Sunscape.
Yeah.
What do you do that energizes you? And we actually struggled with answering that question. I think we knew, we just couldn't pinpoint it.
Well, and we've never asked ourselves that question. So then to think of the answer.
That's true.
We didn't know how to match it up.
Yep. And it's not that we didn't know what we did for fun.
Yeah.
But being intentional about planning fun into our life. It's one thing to know what you do for fun, for entertainment, to know what energizes you. It's another thing to actually plan it and do it, to make it a rhythm in your life. And that's what we talked about coming back from Sunscape. Like we need to be better at making this a rhythm, planning fun into our life. Not just like, impromptu fun around the house or whatever, but like literal things we want to go do that energizes, planning it into.
I love that. I feel like I've had the best week of my life. I got to go to the beach. I got to go to an Astros game and sit behind home plate, which I can never watch another game in person any other way because that was amazing. And then I just took a drive with Michaela. It turned out to be a bust, but it was still an adventure. And then we went to Bluebell. That energizes me and fills my bucket. I loved it.
Unfortunately, we do probably need to clarify. We did not pay for behind.
No, we did not. We got invited to go to that game.
Somebody gifted us tickets.
With some amazing tickets.
Literally front row behind home plate.
But I loved that. Was amazing. That's an experience we may never get again or ever thought we'd have in this lifetime. And this has been like the best week of my life. I've just loved it.
So I'm all for movies and digital forms of entertainment. It's one of the things I love to do, but we need some entertainment that's not on a screen.
Yes.
So Sabrina, what's a new form of entertainment and fun you've discovered that we're trying to make a priority?
The beach. Yeah. And I have gone, not every week, but I'm pretty darn close to going every week. I'm trying to figure out how to get myself down there every week.
And to all of our new Houston listeners, you got to stop telling us, but it's Galveston.
It's the best beach.
It's a beach.
We've been landlocked.
Yeah, we've been in Wyoming for 22 years.
And
beach
really,
is
I've
a
been
beach.
landlocked my whole life because I lived in Oklahoma 22 years before that. So like, I've lived by water, like lakes and stuff, but this is so different
Yeah,
to
it's
go
awesome.
put my toes in the
It's
sand.
literally 30 minutes away, and we can go sit down there. And the sound of the waves crashing in
Yes.
is unbelievable.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's something that we're adding into our rhythm of life is just heading down to the beach for a couple hours, sitting there. We don't, like if we go, you and I don't do anything but sit there.
No, I just want to sit
Yeah.
there. I don't want to do anything else.
We don't get in the water. We just listen to the water.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I love it.
So you have the rhythm of relationships with faith, family, and friends. We'll dive deeper into some of those in a later episode. The rhythm of recreation with exercise, eating, and energizers. And we'll dive deeper there as well. And then lastly, this is one we'll do our next episode on. So we're going to start backwards. We're going to work backwards with these, and we'll start with this one in the next episode. But what is the final rhythm of transition?
The rhythm of rest.
Dun, dun, dun.
I should have played the piano.
This one's hard for people.
Yes, it is.
It's hard when things are going well, and it's really hard when things are in transition. The rhythm of rest. A couple of things we want to talk about in the next episode are sleep, solitude, and most importantly, Sabbath.
Ah, my favorite day of the week.
Yep, mine too. In the chaos of transition, our sleep can be affected. Our minds might be racing with all the changes happening in life. Solitude gets neglected. We need intentional times of solitude where we get ourselves away from the craziness of life and just quiet ourselves and listen to God. No other outside noise. But both sleep and solitude, as well as everything else we've already discussed, are anchored to the Sabbath. I firmly believe that sleep and solitude will naturally happen when we begin to regularly practice the Sabbath.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm more convinced than ever of the importance of the Sabbath rhythm in our life. I would even make the bold statement that outside of our personal time with God in the Word and prayer, the Sabbath is the most important spiritual discipline we can practice.
Man, that's so true.
Which, by the way, if you look at the 10 Commandments, there's 10 of them. The Sabbath is the only spiritual discipline that God commanded us to do. He did not command reading the Bible. He did not command prayer, did not command fasting. The only spiritual discipline we are commanded to do is the Sabbath.
Why is
Isn't
it
that
not
crazy?
talked about? Like, why is it?
It's crazy.
Like, why are we all disobeying the fourth commandment? It's insane.
And I think the devil loves it that way.
Oh, for sure. He loves making people so busy.
Yep. We don't rest.
No.
We don't rest well. The Sabbath is probably the one thing we did best in this whole transition.
Yes.
And we sucked at some of, we really did struggle and suck at some of those things we've talked about. But this is the one we did the best, and it's probably one of the most commonly asked questions we still get from people is how we do the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive deep into this in the next episode. But for us, we choose to stop all of our normal work and activity for one 24-hour period each week. It's typically from 6 p.m. Friday to 6 p.m. Saturday. During those 24 hours, we stop. That's what the word Sabbath means in Hebrew. The word Shabbat means to stop. Not just to slow down, to stop. And listen, in this fast-paced world in which we live, we aren't going to be able to slow down every other day of our lives until we choose to stop for one whole day each week.
That's really good.
So the Sabbath doesn't force us to slow down for one day. It forces us to slow down every day.
Man, that is so true. You
Yep.
have to change
You
all
have to
your
change
rhythms.
all of your rhythms to add the rhythm of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
So, and I knew the Sabbath had become a non-negotiable in our life after the first week we were here. We arrived and we, like you said, we hit the ground running. We want to get our house completely unpacked and put together because we had some guests coming, including our daughter, the second week we were here. So we needed to get the house done. We were in a groove those first several days, and we were wearing ourselves out. And as Sabbath approached, we asked the question, should we just power through and get all this done so that we're ready for who's coming next week? Or should we stop and Sabbath? And we almost powered through. Mm-hmm. I remember really talking about, let's just get it done.
Yeah.
And we'll rest next week.
It is hard to rest when your house is chaotic, depending on your personality. So I was worried that you wouldn't be able to Sabbath very well because of that.
Yep. But we decided that it would be more productive if we took a Sabbath.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole point of the Sabbath anyway, that sometimes you can't do everything.
Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah.
The world still spins even when I'm not spinning.
What?
God's still working when we choose to stop working. So we still, that very first week we were here, in the midst of a house in chaos, we chose to stop at 6 p.m. on the night that we Sabbath, and we left the mess for a full 24-hour rest. We went to church the next day and worshiped. We slept in. We didn't do any work for 24 hours. And then when that was done, we jumped right back in and still finished before our guests arrived. Mm-hmm. We've actually had so many people ask us what we do and don't do on the Sabbath that we thought it would be good to revisit it again in some fresh ways. So in the next episode, we're going to focus solely on the idea of rest through the lens of the Sabbath, and we'll be teaching it with some new language. So if you want, you can go back to episodes 10 and 11 and hear what we've already taught on the Sabbath. It was over a year ago. We're coming up on year 2, by the way. Our second anniversary of this podcast is in June.
Oh, that's insane.
So we're going to go back and we're going to revisit. I've got some fresh language to teach on some of it. I feel like God gave me some new words to use, so it won't be the exact same. And we're going to add some thoughts about solitude and sleep in there as well. We'd also love any specific questions that you might have about Sabbath or these other subjects we've covered as well. So if you have questions, you can email us at hello@jeffmaness.com, or you can ask on social media as well, Jeff G. Maness or Sabrina.Maness. Anything, Sabrina, you want to add here?
No, I'm excited for these next 3 episodes. I'm excited to learn what you learned about the Sabbath from Jesus.
Yep. Are you going to write one of these episodes for me?
No. Oh, okay. I'm just going to show up.
Are you going to work on getting your transitions better?
Maybe I'll read the script a couple more times.
That was hilarious. I just looked at you and you were like, okay, I'm going to go on. That was awesome.
Oh my word. And people tell me all the time I'm so good on this podcast, and I'm thinking, you guys are crazy. All I do is mess up on this podcast. It's real, people. Real life.
I like that we're leaving this one in. I'm not editing that one.
You shouldn't.
That takes more work. So, every transition offers distractions that can derail us. That's why we have to maintain some healthy rhythms during transitions, which keep us grounded and focused. The rhythms of relationships with faith, family, and friends. We'll dive into that. Rhythms of recreation with exercise, eating, and energizers. The Energizer Bunny I keep thinking of. And then the rhythms of rest, sleep, solitude, and most importantly, the Sabbath.
Yeah.
I do believe the Sabbath practice affects everything we've talked about today in a positive way.
Yeah. I mean, we've been practicing the Sabbath since January 2020, and it's totally been
revolutionized our life.
Gosh.
Revolutionized our life.
It has helped us in so many ways we never saw coming.
So every general rhythm started with R, and then each of the sub-rhythms had their own letters. I know you're impressed.
I'm so impressed. You're so creative.
It's a sickness, really.
It is.
Because I actually do this in just regular life. I think in alliteration. It's a problem.
Are other preachers like that?
Not all. Some preachers hate doing that. I can't preach without it.
Were you taught that in school?
No, our pastor in Gillette did it.
Oh, okay. So you just
and my dad's always done that.
Yeah.
Had some kind of alliteration or acrostics.
Yeah, your dad's really good at that too.
Yep. So if you could subscribe to the podcast if you've not done that, as well as like, rate, review, and share the podcast on all the places, that would be great. Sabrina, why don't we end like we always do with our marriage mission? We are united in Christ, unstoppable with Christ, and unbreakable because...
What was that?
I don't know. We're just going to end it right here.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable because of Christ. Now it's time for you to go get naked.
And party.
We'll see you on the other side. You've been listening to the Naked Party Time podcast. Join us next time as we get real and raw about life, leadership, and love.